So welcome everyone. Good morning, and let's kick off. So many of you may wonder what mine water heat is. And the picture on the right hand side here shows Great Britain, and in green are our coalfield areas. Now, pretty much most of the coal mining areas in Great Britain are abandoned now, and there's been tens of thousands of coal mines in the past covering significant areas. And a lot, but not all of these coal mines, underground coal mines now, are flooded with water. So historically, this has been considered to be somewhat of a liability. And of course, the Mining Remediation Authority does great work cleaning up a lot of this water at many mine water treatment schemes, over 80 across the country. But we can now sort of reposition our thinking, moving away from mine water entirely as a liability, but considering it potentially as a geoenergy asset. So a lot of this mine water gets warmed by the geothermal gradient, and we can expect temperatures from between 10 and 20 degrees. And then on this figure here, what we can see again is Great Britain, but in the white, the sort of bright colours underneath show the energy demand or annual heat demand, which has been mapped by BEIS, which is now DESNZ. You can see the bright colours as expected down in the southeastern London, but throughout the rest of the country, we've circled the coalfields in white, and you can see this really does align with a lot of urban areas. Thus, it does align with a lot of heat demand. And we estimate about 25% of properties are on the wider coalfield reporting area. So this really provides a synergy with where people and businesses need heat, but also where coalfields occur. So supporting our work on mine water heat, which I'll describe more now, of course, is our business plan, and also sort of built upon by our mine water heat opportunities framework. So I'd encourage you both to dive into those. They're both online. And it sort of states our sort of intentions with mine water heat and our plans moving forward, and our objectives and how they tie in with our sort of corporate agenda. So first, I'm assuming sort of a base knowledge of not too much. So apologies for anyone that already knows lots about this. So firstly, how can we recover heat from mine water? Well, this diagram here produced by BGS shows a nice sort of simplified diagram of a section through a former coal mining area. And here you can see it represents a sort of borehole system here where we'd have one borehole removing warm water, and then it would go to the surface where the heat would be recovered through heat exchangers and amplified by heat pumps, and then circulated round to buildings to provide space heating and hot water. Then the mine water, once it's used, is returned to another set of workings that provides a bit of distance away from the abstraction workings, just to ensure that there's no thermal interference. What I should say here is mine water is not pumped around the homes. The heat that's recovered is then transferred to a clean network of water which goes through the homes. And also all the technology involved is really tried and tested. Borehole drilling is something that's been going on for a long, long time, as have heat pumps, and it's all technology ready stuff. So let's go into how we can access the mine water, bearing in mind that the majority of it is underground. So the image I showed before had two boreholes, and this is an image here of a drill rig at a site in the northeast of England where we're drilling a borehole. So this is what it may look like if you are accessing mine water via a borehole. Other options that now may be at the surface, and we'll go on to these later, are where we operate mine water treatment schemes across the country. This is where we bring water to the surface to treat before returning it to the surface water environment in a nice clean state. And other opportunities that may arise include shafts where they're sort of suitable to be used. Not all shafts will be. And also where we've got gravity driven outflows or discharges, of which there's numerous examples across the country. So what does Great Britain's mine water heat journey look like? Many of you may think this is a newfangled technology. I haven't dipped into the global kind of background of this just due to time, but the first mine water heating scheme I could find was from the 1960s in the US. It was actually used for cooling in a cigar warehouse, so it's been around for a while. But considering Great Britain and the more recent past, the first really operational schemes were up in Fife and Glasgow, and they were constructed in the late 90s, early noughties, and ran for a fair period. There was also a host of other pilot schemes funded by various research projects, including one at the Cap House, the National Coal Mining Museum of England, and one down in South Wales. So moving on a little bit into the 2010s and closer to 2020, we've got some operational schemes. So there's a couple around. There's a small one in Markham, Derbyshire. There's the Lanchester Wines schemes in Felling, which is the first megawatt scale schemes using mine water to be constructed. And then also the Gateshead Mine Water Heat Network, which I have in bold here because I'll give a short case study on it shortly. And what might the future look like for mine water heat? Well, hopefully quite bright. And these are schemes which are in advanced stages of progress, including other schemes in County Durham, Gateshead, Derbyshire and South Wales. This doesn't include a lot of the studies that are ongoing that are still at desk-based study feasibility stages. So these are ones that are advanced and hopefully we'll see realised in the very near future. Also supporting a lot of these operational schemes are research projects. Now there's numerous projects out there, but the two that I've picked out, of course, are the BGS's UK GEOS Glasgow Observatory, which is a sort of observatory that you can go and use if you want to investigate mine water heat. And also the recently commissioned Mining Remediation Authority Gateshead Mine Water Heat Living Lab, which also provides sort of data on operational schemes, and that evidence and data will all be open access. So let's get on to our case study now. So we're up in Gateshead, so in the wonderful northeast of England. This aerial shot is skimming across the top bit of Gateshead, and you can see the bridges over the Tyne. And if you're familiar with that area, of course, it's Newcastle just over the other side. And you can see some key sort of landmark buildings in there, the Baltic and the Glass House and so on. And this is an area where Gateshead Council were operating a heat network. It was a combined heat and power heat network, but they had aspirations to see if they could move towards using mine water as a source for this heat network. And this is what I'll give the case study on. So we worked with Gateshead Council, who are really amazing council to work with and really forward thinking. And the plan was really to investigate workings in this area to see if they were suitable for mine water heat. So there's various funding streams that Gateshead pulled into, which are reported online. But in short, it resulted in a program of borehole drilling. The workings here were really quite old, so there was a level of uncertainty here, but with really good feasibility planning and excellent drilling support, we're able to drill 3 successful boreholes, 2 abstraction wells, which you can see on this little diagram, and 1 return well. The photo on the top left shows what the borehole looks like. Now the borehole is actually just below that blue pipe, blue sort of headwork stuff. And that concrete O-ring is really just kind of like a chamber to house it all in. And then what happens is a top gets put on that and a manhole cover, and it can be accessed for servicing and so forth. So in general, it has a small footprint. And we drilled down some of these workings. The 2 workings we targeted were the high main seam, which is where we return water to, and where we abstract water from was the Hutton seam. This image on the bottom left is taken from a downhole CCTV camera, which shows the sort of partially open workings in the Hutton seam, and I believe mining in the Hutton seam had finished quite some considerable time ago. So it's quite exciting to see this because there'll be no one alive that has seen this part of the Hutton seam. So it's really great to see that and see the sort of water flow through it. So moving on to what's been achieved by Gateshead Council, supported by Mining Remediation Authority, is one of the largest mine water heat networks in Europe. And what we've got here in this sort of nice aerial image is a in the bottom of the corner, there's a mine water heat pump energy centre. And the boreholes are these very, very small yellow dots in the centre of the image. You can see they take up just a small amount of footprint. The council also have constructed an urban solar park, which is highlighted in green. But for me, what's really interesting in this image is the range and type of building users that are being supplied. So there's several hundred homes connected to it. There's also council offices. You can see the glass house in the back of the picture, Gateshead College and Baltic Centre for Contemporary Arts. But also, interestingly, GB Lubricants, which is a company who you can see their factory at the bottom of the image, also use mine water heat, and they use it to keep their various lubricants at particular temperatures and space heating as well. And being connected to this network has really been able to help them drive much better business, also with sort of good carbon saving credentials underpinning it. So the range and type of users here is really great. And there's a picture here of Jim Gillen and the councillor as well in the top right, who are looking rightfully so very proud in their energy centre. And that's a picture of what the energy centre looks like below. So let's go on to how we would look for other opportunities. So we didn't really have these things to our disposal at the beginning, but subsequently, as people are looking at local area energy plans and also heat network zoning pilot areas, we've been commissioned to sort of generate opportunity maps. Now, these opportunity maps kind of help with that high level screening. So what we say to ourselves is, can we put in all the correct variables you would need to consider for mine water heat at a high level screening stage, and try and make some sort of sense out of them to help drive local authorities, energy companies, investors to kind of the better places. So this is an example from Wales, and I've pictured as South Wales, where we put all the variables in, such as depth to mine water, drilling depth, and whether we've got suitable workings, to come up with these three categories. So we call them good, possible, and challenging. And so these resources are available open access, and each of these, I should say this was a kind of a deliverable on the heat strategy for Wales as well from Welsh Gov. So we produce these open access maps, which have been really successful, with each local authority having a bespoke open access report, which are all bilingual, which sort of details the mining setting and the opportunities within that area. So we've seen good success and good pickup from these from local authorities, social housing developers, and private companies. So fear not, if you're based in England. We've also produced the same for DESNZ's heat network zoning pilot areas. So if you're based in Stoke, Newcastle, Greater Manchester, Birmingham, Bristol, Leeds, Nottingham, Sheffield, or Sunderland, we have also produced mine water heat opportunity maps. This is what a selection of them look like. But these are also supported by open access report, an open access report, and also open access GIS files to include in any of your GIS mapping tools, and they can all be found online if you type in some of that text at the bottom of the page. We've seen good success by using these, so we've been engaging with lots of local authorities and using this really as a great tool to help hone in where we would consider a detailed feasibility study for a site. So going on to another type of opportunity that we do have waste heat opportunities across the country. So the map on the right shows the approximate location of over 80 mine water treatment schemes that we operate throughout the country. And as I mentioned earlier, these schemes treat mine water so we can ensure it is delivered clean back into the surface water environment, and that's their primary role. However, some of them may be useful for heat recovery, and we're investigating this with lots of partners. So there's potential to what we call bolt on to these schemes and recover waste heat. There's a dedicated team who can sort of talk you through these opportunities. And I think hopefully in the very near future, we'll be able to realise some big big opportunities from these. So that's a watch this space kind of heads up. And below is a picture of a settlement lagoon at one of these treatment facilities. Of course, the benefit of using these is that you don't need to drill. So it removes kind of a drilling cost. And a lot of them have a good flow of water through, so you're not needing to pump water via boreholes. So that's what those look like as an opportunity. And I think you can also see the locations of these on our open access GIS viewer, which you can find by typing Mining Remediation Authority viewer into Google, and it should take you there. So coming on to how we can support you, we've got a dedicated team that deal with the borehole schemes. That's my team primarily. And a sister team as well that deals with the waste heat schemes. You know, we're both really happy to talk to you about potential schemes in your area. And we've also got a dedicated licensing, mine water heat licensing team. So that'll take you through the various paperwork and processes that we need from our side. My team provides advisory services. So we do everything from desk-based studies through to supporting borehole siting, drilling and testing, and also sorting out the various pieces of permissions, paperwork, permits and licenses that you need. We're also fairly well versed in identifying funding, or at least saying which funding we see has been used successfully. Or what I can expand on is we've seen things from Green Heat Network Fund, public sector decarbonisation scheme, but also privately funded things or things via innovation projects. So a sort of a host of opportunities to fund and support these things. We can also provide high-level screening. So if you're thinking to yourself, oh, I quite like a mine water heat scheme in my area, well, a good first port of call would be to drop us a line, and then we'll help guide you through any opportunity maps we've got, or give you or point you in the broadly right direction, just in case there's anything you need to know at the start of one of these studies. So this brings the talk broadly to an end before a few Q&As. So it would be amiss of me not to advertise the Mine Water Energy Symposium. This is an entirely free one-day event held across one morning and one evening on separate days. It attracts a real good mixture from academics, industry, local authorities, regulators, government, and a lot of speakers from the UK, but also we expect speakers from around the world, including Germany, Spain, and the US. So a really great forum if you want to drop into that, and the sign up for that will appear online shortly. It is entirely free to attend. And that really wraps up the talk pretty much. I would really encourage you, if you're considering this, tomorrow's talk is Joanne Einan. She's the Principal Manager of Mine Water Heat Licensing, and she'll give an excellent talk, no doubt, on what we need to do in terms of paperwork, if you like, on these things. And that will follow up on Thursday with Dr. Fiona Todd, who's going to cover more of the research and development in mine water heat that we're undertaking here at the Mining Remediation Authority. So I'd encourage you both to join up for those. And that brings me to the end of the talks. I'd like to thank you very much. I'll take